register. In English, I hope you don't laugh at the Komodo dragon that I'm going to feed. In the register, gue narepin lo na ketawa komodo yang bakalang gue naisi daging itu. The register is my name for a slangy register that's used in informal context, such as internet vernacular. I also call this register Bahasa Batavia because it's easier to say than register. The register can be thought of as being derived from the standard Hmong register, but differing from it by incorporation of various elements of Javanese and Betawi, including pronouns in their bound forms. Sai becomes gue, anda becomes lo. Words, akan becomes bakalan, beri becomes kasih. Affixes, Hmong becomes kan becomes in. And pronunciation, harap, harap, tidak, ngak. Here are some additional key features of Bahasa Batavia. Cosmopolitan absorption of foreign loanwords such as gym, to work out at the gym, or sex, to have sex. Informal commands and requests, as described in the section below about the imperative mood. As shown in the table below, most of the action in the register is focused on transitive verbs. Hmong is truncated to and kan and e are replaced with in. In addition, the pronunciation and spelling of the base often changes. Because Bahasa Batavia is less commonly encountered than the standard Hmong register, its differences may at first glance appear scattershot. However, there is method to the madness. Here's a flowchart that shows its key elements. The affix system uses the triage to create Hmong transitive verbs. These are converted to transitive verbs in the Bahasa Batavia. And those are translated into passive verbs. Practice tip. The association of Bahasa Batavia with Jakarta is so strong that the learner will often hear it used for Indonesian dubbing of foreign movies set in other capital cities such as DC. I call the register Bahasa Batavia as a reminder of the unmitigated awfulness of European colonial rule and the close relationship between this register and Jakarta. Plus, it's easier to say.
Ganjar nong kedoan batik keleler. Ganjar nong kedoan batik keleler. Mae dole teko muputi ganjar. Mae dole teko muputi ganjar.
Bahasa Batavia pronunciation. Bahasa Batavia has many pronunciation changes. Here are some key examples. Omission of initial S in certain common words. Example 1, saja becomes aja, suda becomes uda. Final syllable A becomes E. Example 2a, cepat, cepet. However, not every final syllable A becomes an E. In example 2b, you have words that retain the A. Example 2c, you have words that switch it with the E. The rule that governs whether A turns into E appears to be ease of pronunciation by native speakers. However, the underlying principles remain elusive to me. Final syllable I becomes A. Example 3, chapai, chape, sampai, sampe. Final syllable U becomes O in many words. Example 4, mabuk becomes mabuk, kabun becomes kabon. And lots of contractions, terima kasih, makasih, and acronyms, anak baru gede, ABJ. Bahasa Batavia word replacements. As is also the case with the informal register, Bahasa Batavia mostly replaces adverbs, pronouns, and other grammatical elements. Adjectives and nouns are usually left as is. Here are some examples. Berbicara, ngomong, ingin, pengen. Baru-barusan, hanya, cuma, and so on. Pronouns, anda, kamu becomes lo. And other elements, dengan becomes sama. Notably, replacements can be further elaborated, such as gak turns into seenggaknya, not becomes at least, and kayak, similar to, becomes kayaknya, it seems. Bahasa Batavia has an exceedingly useful word, ngapain, doing what. For example, kamu ngapain means, what you doing? I imagine that ngapain was derived by apa to mengapakan to ngapain, but mengapakan, but not apakan, appears to be obsolete. Bahasa Batavia affixes. Bahasa Batavia replaces several Hmong register affixes with its own. For example, Hmong becomes ng. Example 1a, antar. In the Hmong register, Hmong antarkan. And in Bahasa Batavia, nyanterin. 1b, temu, menemukan. In the Hmong register, menemui. And in Bahasa Batavia, nemuin. And kani in these examples are replaced with in. By contrast, verbs remain as is. Ter is replaced with ke or kean. The Javanese affixes ke, kean replace ter of passive ter verbs. Example 2a through 2d. So in 2a, stative ter verb diolesi dengan daran turns into the stative ter verb teroles dengan dara, and in Bahasa Batavia, keoles dengan dara, smeared with blood. Example 2b, accidental terbangun oleh bau mulut busuk Komodo, awakened by the Komodo dragon's rotten breath. In Bahasa Batavia is kebangun oleh bau mulut busuk Komodo. Example 2c, abilitative ter verbs, terlihat, visible, becomes kelihatan. And example 2d, reptile brain tertawa, to laugh, laughed, becomes ketawa. However, ter is not replaced in other contexts such as superlatives. Example 2e, bike is good, terbike means the best. There's no kebike. Nya often becomes sean. The suffix an often replaces nya of seanya adverbs. Example 3a, sebetulnya becomes sebetulan. An is also tacked on many adjectives to make adverbs. Example 3b, benar becomes benaran, serius becomes seriusan, pantas becomes pantesan. Bahasa Batavia, kan, ya. The Bahasa Batavia and the informal register use kan, ya in various ways. Kan is used at the end of a question to elicit agreement. Example 1a, Pulau Komodo bagus kan? Komodo Island is cool, isn't it? Or at the beginning or middle of a sentence to emphasize an assertion. Example 1b, Komodo ini kan terlihat bahaya. Or kan Komodo ini terlihat bahaya. Man, this Komodo dragon looks dangerous. Ya is used at the end of a question to elicit agreement, like kan. Example 1a, Pulau Komodo bagus kan, or Pulau Komodo bagus ya. At the beginning of a sentence to emphasize an assertion. Example 1b, Komodo ini kan terlihat bahaya, or kan or ya, Komodo ini terlihat bahaya. Man, this Komodo dragon looks dangerous. At the end of a command, or between the command's transitive verb and object, to soften the command. In this context, ya can be replaced with dong. Example 2a, jual telur yang aneh itu kepada kebun binatang ya. or jual telur yang aneh itu kepada kebun binatang. Sell that weird egg to the zoo. Or at both ends of a sentence or at the beginning of a sentence as a filler word. So for example, ya nyak tao ya. I don't know. Verbs. As shown in the table to the right, verbs in Bahasa Batavia are derived from verbs in the Hmong register. Most of the action is focused on transitive verbs. Here are some key features of Bahasa Batavia's verbs. Although the register essentially truncates the m of Hmong verbs, it does not truncate the p of Hmong nouns. So for example, 1, alam becomes Hmong alami in the standard Hmong register, or nyalamin, to experience something, in Bahasa Batavia, whereas Hmong alaman is not changed. Similarly, spelling changes in the base of verbs flow through verb derivatives, such as bare bones forms, dipassive verbs, copassive verbs, but not to noun derivatives, as just discussed. So harap becomes Hmong harapkan in the standard Hmong register, but there's a spelling change of the base in Bahasa Batavia, harep. So you get narepin, to hope for something, whereas the noun harapan is not changed. Spelling rules. As described in the presentation about the affix system, the combination of Hmong with bases that start with certain consonants don't sound right, at least to the Indonesian ear. The problem is fixed by compromise. The spelling at the junction is changed in a way that reduces the dissonance, but retains as much of the original pronunciations of the prefix and the base as possible. Relatedly, affixation sometimes also results in syllable changes, as described in the presentation about words. It's helpful to think of Hmong as m, in disguise. In the Hmong register, the Hmong spelling rules have the effect of maintaining the m sound at the expense of the sound. Conversely, in the register, the spelling rules have the opposite effect of maintaining or resurrecting the sound at the expense of the m sound. Accordingly, the spelling rules dictate that verbs are generated from Hmong verbs by truncating m from the Hmong verb when the first letter of the base is a vowel. Example 1a, antar, menyantarkan, deletes the m to get nyanterin. Or one of the 4 consonants that are deleted, ka, pe, este. Example 1b, karang, nyarang becomes nyarang. Example 1c, tulis becomes nulis, becomes nulis. Replacing Hmong with n for all other letters except for ch. Example 2, nama becomes namakan or namain. There are 3 exceptions. C is replaced with ny, ny. 3, chari, manchari, nyari. H either takes ny, as in hadap, menghadapi, nyhadapin, or is replaced by for B, harap, mengharapkan, nyadapin. And memper is replaced by mer. Example 5, besar, memper besar becomes mer besar. These patterns are summarized in the table below. For example, when the first letter of the base is M, in example 1, meng makan becomes memakan for meng, and in Bahasa Batavia, ny makan, to eat something. G uses meng and ny, mengganggu and nyaganggu. Example 2, to annoy somebody. H has 2 things. In Hmong register, it's meng, but in Bahasa Batavia, it could be ny or h. So 3a, hadap becomes nyhadapin. Example 3b, harap becomes nyarapin. Vowels tack on mung in mung register and in Bahasa Batavia. Antuk becomes mung antuk and ngantuk. K in mung register, K is replaced by mung, and in Bahasa Batavia, it's replaced by So mung karang, mangarang, nyarang. The first letter of the base is B. In the mung register, use mum. In the register, use nya. Mung plus bahas gives mum bahas, and in Bahasa Batavia, nya bahas. P in Bahasa Batavia turns into M. So mung, example 7, mung plus pukul in the mung register becomes memukul, and in Bahasa Batavia, mukul. S in the mung register is replaced by munya, and in Bahasa Batavia, nya. So mung plus sapu, manyapu, or Bahasa Batavia, nyapu. D and J replaced with mun in the mung register and nya in Bahasa Batavia. So mung plus dorong, mandorong, and in Bahasa Batavia, nya dorong. T is replaced by mun in mung register and replaced by in Bahasa Batavia. So mung tulis becomes manulis or nulis. C uses mun in mung register, but it's replaced by ny, nye, in Bahasa Batavia. So mung plus chari becomes manchari, and then nyari. The last three rows of the table above describe special rules for foreign loanwords. The special rules function to produce affix derivatives that retain the loanword's foreign-sounding features. The general rules for foreign loanwords in the mung register are described in the presentation about the affix system. In the register, the solution is more straightforward. Ng is simply tacked onto the foreign loanword without modification. When the first letter of the base of the foreign loanword is S, you tack on mun in the mung register or ny in Bahasa Batavia. Example 12, mung plus sosialisasi in the mung register becomes mensosialisasikan, or in Bahasa Batavia, nya sosialisasikan. Mentraktir becomes nya traktir. Example 13. Example 14, mengecek becomes nya cek. The foregoing rules create the regular transitive verb forms for the ng register. Its bare bones forms are not created by importing the bare bones forms from the mung register, but instead by removing the prefix from the transitive verb forms of the ng register. Example 1a. So makan becomes memakan. The regular form ne makan turns into the bare bones form makan. But this has the effect of retaining any spelling changes that were introduced into the base, or the junction between and the base. So here are examples. Mengantarakan becomes nyanterin, and the bare bones form retains the spelling change antarin. Similarly with ingat, mengingatkan gives yang inetin, and the bare forms nyetin. Chari, menchari, to nyari, the bare bones form nyari, retaining the spelling change. Tulis manulis becomes nulis, and the bare bones form retains the change, nulis. By contrast, bases that start with H are once again exceptional because their bare bones forms are derived factorially by ny going to ny or H, or ng going to H or no. However, the underlying principles remain elusive to me. Finally, when the final letter of the base is I, it does not merge with in. Example 3a, henti becomes nyehentiin instead of nyehentin. By contrast, I in the Hmong register suffix I merges. So buri becomes mumburi instead of mumburi. Practice tip. Rote memorization of the spelling rules is not productive. Instead, the learner should first work on internalizing the Hmong spelling rules by identifying Hmong derivatives that show up in their applied studies and then mapping them to the table above. After that, the learner should do the same thing for the spelling rules.